Bro, if your motion graphics still look like a 2015 corporate PowerPoint, this video is for you. Everyone's out there adding noise textures, 47 color grades, random shapes, thinking more means better. It doesn't. The cleanest work, it's always the simplest. And today I'm showing you exactly how I built this SaaS-style animation inside of Adobe After Effects from scratch. Nothing hidden, no plugins needed. This style is everywhere right now. Product launch videos, app promos, startup reels. Clients are paying good money for exactly like this look. So stick around because by the end of this video, you will know how to build it too. So let's get into it. Back in After Effects. So let's start with the composition setting first. So let's hit Ctrl K, a shortcut key for that, to open the composition settings, and for the preset I have used as 1920 by 1080 pixels, which is called as Full HD. You can go with 4K pixels, and for the frame rate it's set to 30 frames per second, and the duration is approximately set as 7 minutes 17 seconds. And for the composition name I have set as Modern Tech Brand Animation, and for the background color it's set as default like black. Hit OK and just hit OK. So let's start with the first layer. At 3-second mark, hit N to mark up a pace. So let's start with the first scene, how I built this in After Effects. Let's start with the first layer. So first layer is our background layer, obviously. So just I have added a simple solid layer. Select this layer, go to layer and select the solid settings. The solid settings are exactly the composition settings. The width is set to 1920 by 1080 pixels, and for the color it's set as a grayish tone, not too light gray or not too dark gray, a little bit version of gray. Okay, you can copy the exact hex code like mine, A6 A6 A6. Okay, hit OK, and I have named it as BG for background. Just hit OK. The second layer is our dot layer. So you can see the dots over here, the little shapes over here. So how I build that? So go to shape tools and just choose the ellipse tool. Make sure the fill is set to a solid color and just choose the grayish version, a little bit darker gray. For this, you can copy the exact hex code, hit OK, and make sure the stroke is turned off and make a little smaller shape. Let's see the properties of the shape. In the properties section, it's set as 10 by 10. So the height and width, approximately X and Y positions and size is set to 10 by 10. Okay, and make a perfect ellipse shape. And after that, what you have to do is just center align it using the align tool. And after that, let's see its contents. Expand the contents. Let's expand this timeline first. So I have added an effect called repeater. So you can add that from go to add and just add a repeater option or parameter. And here I have added a first repeater as horizontal and just hit Ctrl D to make a duplicate of that and renamed it as vertical. So for the first horizontal repeater, the settings are copies set to 40, and in the transform properties of this repeater, X of the position is set to 40 and the Y position is set to 0. Close this and expand the vertical. The copies are set to 25 and in the transform, Y position is set to 40 and the X position is set to 0 now. Okay, so we will get that grid look of these ellipse, and after that you can align it in the center of the composition. After that, just make sure your dots layer is selected, rename it as dots, and make sure the layer is selected using the ellipse tool, and make sure the mask option is selected. Just make a perfect ellipse mask in the center of the composition and you will get a mask option. When you will draw the mask in the composition using this layer, you will get the mask options over here. So expand the mask properties and you can see the mask feather is set to 800. The mask opacity is set to 40% and the mask expansion is set to -150. Your settings may vary from mine because you have a different composition, and you can apply the same settings and tweak the settings according to your like. But I have the same setting. You can copy the exact settings, but you have to tweak something different because you are working on a different project maybe. So just hit U, and after that I have animated it. So at the beginning of the timeline, let's drag this. At the beginning of the timeline, I have added a simple opacity parameter for this. At the beginning of the timeline, make a keyframe on opacity with a 0% value and just move 15 frames forward. Set the opacity all above to 100% and just select these keyframes, apply easy ease and make a graph, something like this. I have made a graph so it comes fast and gets slower in the end. It doesn't mean you can apply the simple F9 shortcut to easy ease the keyframe, but I have made a custom graph for this. And after that, move forward to 2 seconds 20 frame forward, make a keyframe again on this opacity to give it a pause, and add 3 seconds something around 2 frame forward, just make a keyframe on opacity with a 0% value, so it will fade when it will end, something like this. Okay, so let's start with the beginning. You can see the fading effect on this grids, and it ends something like this. Okay, so we have this opacity parameters applied to this dots layer. Okay, hit U to hide everything. Let's start with the third layer. So third layer is basically our main shape. So the main shape is the shape. You can see the white shape over here. Using the rounded rectangle tool, just make sure the solid layer is selected and the stroke is set to 3 pixels, and the stroke is set to a linear gradient. You can choose any color you like. I have set as light blue to the dark blue, not too much dark blue, and you can copy the exact hex code like mine. Just hit OK and make a perfect shape using this title action save. Just make a perfect shape, something like this, and after that let's hit Ctrl D to make a duplicate of that shape layer and drag it beneath the main shape layer. The first shape layer is our main white shape, you can see, and its shape settings are something like, let's see the properties of this shape. The size is set to 1536 to 200, something around. You can just tweak the settings according to your likes, and after that just rename it as main shape and just hit Ctrl D to make a duplicate of that and drag it beneath the main shape layer, and just turn off the fill and turn on the stroke section with the 3 pixels of width. And after that, in the effect controls, I have applied a deep glow effect on this layer to give it a glow behind the edges. You can copy the exact radius like 500. The exposure value is set to 0.50. The threshold is set to 25. And the threshold smoothness set to 61%. And just tweak the settings, whatever the best results you like. Okay, so we have this, and after that we have the ending. We will talk about it later. Let's after that just add some icons. So you can see the music icon first. The first icon is our music icon, some text, something like meeting with team audio file .mp3. For the font, I have used a font like SF Pro Display with the 50 pixels of the size, and just hit Ctrl D to make a duplicate of that and just set it as June 15, the date and the time, something like that. Also change the color to a grayish version of that and just drag it beneath this text. And after that, what I've done, just hit U to see the keyframes. I have applied animator, so expand the properties. Let's expand the text, and first I have applied a simple opacity effect. So just go to animate and just add an opacity parameter over here. Just make a duplicate of that. The first, rename it as opacity in, so the first will be in animation, the opacity in, and the second is opacity out, so our text will fade, something like that. And for the opacity in animation, let's expand this, expand the advanced properties of the range selector, and for the base down, set to characters. For the shape, set to ramp up, and you can set the units as percentage, and just at the beginning of the timeline, make a keyframe on offset value with that is negative 100%, and just go to something around 1 second, 12 frame or 15 frame forward, and set the offset value to 100%, and you will get that when the shape enters, you will get the text fading effect, something like this. Okay, and after that, close this and expand the opacity out effect or animation, and something around at this frame, 1 second, 15 frame forward, make a keyframe on this offset value with negative 100 and move 2 seconds forward. At 2 seconds, just make a keyframe on offset and with a value of 20%, not 0. And in the advanced properties, just change the shape to ramp down. That's it. You will get that invert effect when the shape will drag to the left. For the animation, you will get the text fading effect, something like this. You can see, so you don't have to set at all 0 because your text will fade up all 0, so it will look bad. Okay, let's set it to 20% and you will get that a small fading effect, just like a mask effect in the text. Okay, so yeah, that's how we made this text animation to give it a depth to our text. Hit U to hide everything. Now for the second text, you can see the June text. The same animation is applied. Let's expand this, expand the text properties, and I have animated blur and opacity both for both text. Okay, so just go to animate, and just click on the opacity parameter and just again go to animate and select the blur parameter, and after that just set the blur value to 5% and the opacity is set to 0. Expand the range selector, expand the advanced, and make a keyframe at the beginning of the timeline. Make a keyframe on this offset value to -100%. Move 1 second 15 frame forward and just set the offset value to 100%. Paste down set to characters and the shape is set to ramp up like previous, and you will get that blur and opacity at the same time, something like this. Okay, yeah, you can also add the opacity out of it or animation. We have animated before in the text, like our main text, like meeting with team audio. You can apply the same opacity, just copy that from this text and hit Ctrl V to copy and paste this animation and just tweak the keyframes at this frame 1 second 15 frame forward, and you will get that same fading text effect at the end of this shape. Okay, so yeah, that's how we made our text animation. Let's move forward. Let's talk about this share link button. So let's drag it something like this. Firstly, just go to rectangle tool using the rounded rectangle tool and make sure the fill is set to a linear gradient. You can also apply the gradient ramp effect on the solid shape layer, but I have added a linear gradient for this. Just choose the color, hit OK, and after that just expand the properties, expand the layer styles, and I have added 2 effects. First, the drop shadow effect. Second, the inner glow effect. So you can right click, go to layer styles and just apply different effects from this. The first is drop shadow and the second is inner glow effect. The first effect, let's expand the values. So for the blend mode, set to multiply, the color is set to a darker blue for this, and the global light is checked off. The opacity is set to 25%, and different settings like spread set to 10%. The size is set to 25, and different settings you can play with the angle settings of the shadow, and just close this and expand the inner glow effect, and the color is set to white color for this, and the blend mode is set to screen. The opacity is set to 75, the choke is set to 0, the size is set to 35%, and the range is set to 30. For the range property, you can tweak with the settings for the more smoother look of the inner glow, and you will get that inner glow shadows or effect for your shape. So it is a cool effect used in the most of the SaaS videos for the button click animations. Okay, so yeah, we have this effect, and after that we have this text called share link. Just a random text with the SF Pro display medium font. The style is set to medium with a 62 pixels text, and just a PNG icon for the sparkles, and hit E twice to see the properties. I have set a random time -20 expression on this to continuously rotate it until the animation comes. You can see the rotation, it automatically rotates when the animation comes and closes. Okay, so yeah, that's how we animated this. So that's how you make a shape and set up everything, and after that it's time to animate this whole shape. So what you have to do is just add a controller layer. So just go to layer, go to new, and just add a null object, and I have already added the null object. Just rename it as controller1, and just holding shift select all the icons and shapes whatever included in this shape, main shape, just link it to the controller1 or null layer, and after that set everything to 3D, and also change the controller layer or null layer set to 3D. Hit U to see the keyframes of this, and after that make a keyframe on position, and at the beginning of the timeline the values are set to something like this. Out of the composition to the right and something around 1 second forward, just set the X position to something around this frame. Just make sure the title action save is turned on, so you will get the extra accuracy for the animation. So at 1st second forward you will have to show the first objects like icon, the text, and after that move 2 seconds forward, make a keyframe on position, and just you have to drag the X position to add this share link button. So it will come at this frame, it will stop and get to this point at 2 seconds forward, and apply easy ease to those keyframes, and just go to speed graph editor and make a graph something like this. So it will come slower to the highest peak, get slower in the end. Okay, so it will make fast animation and gets to the end, again fast, slower to fast, and get slower, and at last the same. Okay, And after that, just select your keyframes, holding Alt, double click to open the keyframe velocity properties, and make sure the continuous log is checked. Hit OK, and just go to speed graph filter and make sure you select these points. You can just drag this a little bit upwards to make a continuous motion in your shape. Let's see our preview. Yeah. So I have also applied the text animation, the opacity fading to our shading. So let's select this text, expand and you can see the animator. The same we have copied from the text animation before. Just copy the animator from there and just paste and tweak the keyframes according to the timestamp, and you will get that entrance fading effect in your text. Yeah, something like this. That looks super cool. Yeah, that's hit OK, hit U. So after that, at 2 seconds forward, you will have a clicking animation. So at 2 seconds forward, we have this cursor layer. So make it also a 3D and just add a cursor layer. I have already added a cursor, a PNG icon you can download from Google also. So hit U to see the keyframes. Make it a 3D layer and add a keyframe, something around 1 second, 25 frame forward. Make a keyframe on position, scale, Z rotation, property, and opacity. Firstly, let's make a keyframe on position and the Z rotation or Z rotation, and move to something around 2 second 15 frame forward. Make a keyframe again. You can set the beginning Z rotation value to -40 and set the position to out of the composition, something around here, and move forward to 2 second 15 frame forward. Set the Z rotation to 0 degree and set the position to something around here. And after that, just select your keyframes, apply easy ease, and you will get the speed graph to faster to slower. So it will come fast at the beginning and get slower in the end. And after that, at this same frame, 2 second 15, make a keyframe on scale and move forward to around 2 second 20th frame. Just drag the scale value to 50%, and at the beginning the scale value is set to 55, and move forward to 25 frame, 2 second 25 frame forward, and just increase the scale value to 65. Select those keyframes, apply easy ease, and just go to speed graph editor, and you have to make a perfect graph, something like this. So it will come slower to the snap and get faster and get slower again. So you will have a clicking animation on your button to reveal the next scene, and after that move forward to something around 2 second 22 frame forward. Make a keyframe on opacity with the 100% value and just move forward to something around 2 second 26 frame forward and set the opacity all the way to 0% to end up with the cursor. You can see like this. Yeah, and at the same frame where our opacity animation starts, our all the previous layer set to end with the opacity. So how we have done, set the sparkle layer, holding shift, select all the layers we have added, hit U to see the keyframes, and at the same frame, something around this frame, 2 second 20th frame forward, make a keyframe on opacity and move forward to something around 3 seconds and just drag all the way of the opacity to 0%. So when our first scene ends with this zoom, all the layers split at that point and the opacity set to 0% will fade out every layer which is in the scene one. Okay, yeah, so we have this animation, and after that let's talk about the clicking animation. So I have already made a video on that previously. You can check out on my channel the button clicking interaction animation. So how I made this interaction, you can watch my entire video. So let's quickly select this cursor layer. So what you have to do is just go to tool section and using the ellipse tool with the fill set to a solid color, white color. You can choose the different color for this. Just drag the circle at the beginning. Let's select this layer, hit U to see the keyframes. So at this point, something around 2 second 16 or 18 frame forward, make a keyframe on this layer. So set the opacity and scale parameters at this frame, make a keyframe on that. The scale is set to 0, the opacity is set to 100%, and move frame something around 2 seconds and 30th frame forward, make a keyframe with 0% opacity and the scale set to the highest, bigger than the shape you can see in the blue shape. So the scale set to highest and the opacity immediately fades out. So you will get that button clicking animation, something like this. Yeah, so we have this, and after that our next scene enters. So let's drag this to at this frame. So we end up with this 3-second forward. Just select the controller layer, hit U to see the keyframes. So at this frame, something around 2-second, 20th frame forward, with a keyframe again on the position from this little keyframe icon to give it a pause. And after that, move to 3 seconds, something around 3-second, 4th frame forward. Just drag the something around negative 2057 Z position. So you will get the zoom in animation, something like this. You have to tweak the Z position, not the XY value. Okay, just tweak the Z position, zoom in animation, something like this. And after that, our video enters into the scene. For that, just duplicated that main blue shape layer. So just hit Ctrl D to make a duplicate of this blue shape layer and rename it as video mask. And I have added a video clip. You can download it from the Google according to your project. I have added this random video, and after that, just set the track matte of this video to this video mask layer, and it will automatically be turned off. Make sure it is turned off, and the video layer is set to alpha matte, not luma matte. So it will enter into the scene. So at this frame, something around at 3-second forward, select the video mask layer, hit U to see the keyframes. When our first scene gets to end and our second scene enters into the scene, the first property we have added, make sure all layers are set to 3D except the 2 text layers above. So we will talk about it later. So select the video mask layer, hit P to open the position property and set the opacity and position parameters at the beginning with the value of opacity to 0% and the position of Z to set to 0, and the X and Y value will be set as default. And move frame forward, something around 3 seconds, 16 frame forward. Set the opacity to 0% and set the Z position to something around negative 250 or 240. And after that, just move forward and you will get that fading effect. Keyframe on opacity with the 100% as default, like set as a pause, and something around 5 frame forward, set the opacity to 0% and you will get that video fading effect. And just split that layer holding Alt and right or left bracket key. Okay, so you will get that effect. Just select your keyframes, apply easy ease using F9 and just make a perfect graph, something like this. Just start with the fast velocity and slow in the end, and you will get that effect, something like this. Okay, so when our first scene ends with the mask, the second scene enters into the composition, and after that the waves come into the center. So how I made this waves, I have made in the composition from scratch. You can download the overlay from the different websites. You can download the paid, you can download the free available if on Google, and I have made a custom wave. So let's hit U to hide everything first, and you can see the waves precomp. Just double click to open this precomp. Just random shapes over here. The first shape is set to a solid color with these settings. The rounded corners are set to the highest 820. Just duplicate these shapes and make some random adjustments to make a wave. And after that, make a keyframe on the size property and just tweak the keyframes. At the beginning, the size is set to this 133 to 468 and move forward to 1 second. Values are different, and at this frame, copy the first keyframe and hit Ctrl V to paste the keyframe, and after that you have to loop that. So here, holding Alt, click on this stopwatch of the size and just apply the simple expression called loop out open parenthesis and close parenthesis, and you will get that looping animation. And just select these keyframes, apply easy ease and just go to split graph editor and just make a graph something like this. And after that, just right click, copy expression only, select this option and select these layers, select the size property and hit Ctrl V to paste the expression and the property to all the shape layers, and make sure you tweak the middle keyframe for each shape differently, so it will move differently, something like this, like a wave. Okay, and after that, let's get back to our main composition. So at 3 seconds forward, let's add our precomp. So we have added already the precomp, so it enters into the scene. So hit U to see the keyframes. Make sure you turn on the 3D layer, and the rasterize option is also checked, because when it is off, the 3D layer will not work. Okay. So after that, at 3 seconds, just make a keyframe on position, make a keyframe on opacity. This fourth parameter is already set as default from our previous recom, so we will not discuss about that. And move something or 4 frame forward. At the beginning, set the opacity to 0%, and the position will be out of the composition at right. You can tweak the values and move frame forward, set the value to 100%, and something around at this frame, something around 4 seconds, 15 frame or 12 frame forward, set the X and Y position to at the center of the composition, something like this, and set the opacity to 100% almost. And at this frame, before 10 frame, set the scale value to 116, and make a keyframe again on opacity to give it a pause, and move frame forward at 5 seconds, and just decrease the opacity, set to 0%, and increase the scale out of the composition. You can see, just increase the scale value to something around 1562, and the Z position will be the 100, and you will get that fit. So it comes like this, and it gets out of the composition using the scale parameter, something like this. And after that, at 5 frame forward, just we have already added the video mask. Hit U to see the keyframes. After 4 seconds, 8 frame forward, make a keyframe again on the opacity, not the position, to give it a pause. And at 5 second forward, when our waves get out of the composition and fades with opacity animation, also you have to add the opacity with a 0%, the same, and split the layer from that point with the waves and this video mask layer. So our next scene will end something like this. Okay, so white or grayish background after this. So our scene first comes like this, ends with this second scene, and we have this third scene with the text animations. Okay, let's hit U to hide everything. Let's talk about text animation. So at 5 second forward, just add random text. I have added no translators. The second text as no complex tools. For the animation, expand the layer, expand the text, and expand the animator. I have already added the position, opacity, and blur parameters. You can go to animate, just add position, opacity, and blur parameter. The position for the Y value is set to 70, the opacity is set to 0, and the blur is set to 5. After that, expand the range selector, expand the advanced, and set the based onto characters. The shape is set to ramp up. The ease high and ease low value is set to 20 and 70%, and make a keyframe on offset value at 5 frame forward. With the negative 100% value, move 6 seconds forward. Just set the offset value to 100%, and you will get the text animation something like this. Just apply easy ease to your keyframes and make a simple graph something like this, so it will comes faster and get slower at the end. Okay, and after that, just hit U or just copy the animator from this text. Hit Ctrl C to copy this, and hit Ctrl Shift D to make a duplicate of this text layer, and move forward to our first text ends. Just move the layer at 6 frame forward, and hit Ctrl V to paste that keyframe from the previous text, and you will get the same text animation in your second text, something like this. Okay, and for the font, I have used the same font for whole composition, the SF Pro. It's quite amazing font for the UI animations, and just I have added a different color for the first text, the no, and the rest is set to black. Okay, so you will get the whole animation like this. I hope you understand the breakdown. Let's hit U to hide everything, and finally let's turn on the motion blur for all the layers except the background and dots layer. And yeah, we have this animation. Let's quickly turn off the title action save, and let's render it for the smooth playback, and you have the final version something like this. Yeah, amazing. That's it. Clean, minimal, actually looks professional, and you built it yourself. Look, I know most tutorials rush through the hard part, but I didn't. If something didn't click, drop a timestamp in the comment section and I'll get back to you ASAP. Well, project file is on my Patreon, so link is in the description. If this helped, you already know what to do. Till then, keep creating. See you in the next one.